Welcome back. We are going to do a mini update. Now, I haven't done these in a while, and I have not abandoned you guys. I'm sorry I haven't been present. I have been having a lot of personal transits going on as well. And we are going to do some just basically a chat. A lot of times I do chat in with my members, and I feel it's important that I give you guys some context. So we have been changing some things around on the channel. You guys do think I'm dead and I'm not coming back, and no, that is not the case. And for those of you that don't know, I'm Yildiz. I don't look as flash as that at the moment. However, I'm a psychic medium, intuitive astrologer. Most of my life I've been psychic, so it has really pushed me into the element of having to use my intuition, which, trust me, a lot of you guys are really moving into. If you do need any help, you can visit the website, and I'm going to chuck my head on. That looks absolutely different to that. It's bloody hot here, and we are going to do a mini update. So as I mentioned, I was chiming into the members, having a chat with them about some of these transits, and it was my intention to cover the moons at the beginning of the year and to do other things. But there was a lot of kind of inner workings I directly was doing, both personal with home and family, as well as, juggling the two jobs and really trying to get that north. And I think a lot of us might move into 2026 feeling it's exactly the same. And, a lot of my downloads especially have said, no, it's not. Okay. Some of this energy can be kind of coming over from last year. And I don't feel that's a permanent thing. I do feel you're wrapping up, with the North Node in Pisces, which I thought was quite ironic because it's quite 12th house of nature. It is to do with at times having to go with the flow, moving away from the Virgoian energy of details, data, perfectionism. It's like, really brutally, honestly looking at your life and realizing the limitations and the things that we needed to kind of get obstacles out of our way in our life to achieve those targets. So a lot of you guys are going to be able to achieve things this year. Your positive vibration may not be here yet. Some of you could be misinterpreting the exhilaration for the extremities, especially with things that you're going to see on the news. And this window is really pushing that change. At a personal level, what I am seeing is half of the year is a total different kettle of fish. The beginning of the year, what we need to understand is we already were tired from last year. We'd had a lot of retrogrades. We've moved into 2026. Some of you maybe did have time to have a proper break and to, sit back and relax and do those things. Others of you might have felt that you moved into 2026 like nothing really changed. And it's the same eat, pray, repeat. I've also, from my own personal experience of really talking to individuals out on the street, looking at my own life, talking to my members and community, and looking at how the tests and the tribulations that a lot of individuals around the world are actually dealing with, there has been a significant shift with values, and that's with your personal values. That can be with how to navigate the world moving forward, especially if it is in your career sector. It's like what your purpose is going to be, where your power is. And this month, especially where we are in the portal of it, I'm going to discuss a bit of what is coming up and some things to be mindful of. And, I generally do listen to podcasts and things to upskill, educate, understand, and to really find, what would I say, interest in other people's perspectives to do with the astrology, because each individual will pick something different. And although there is this fair-based frequency to do with, say, AI and things like that, it doesn't directly take community away, okay? It doesn't directly take the human element and the connection and the thriving for that interest in a subject matter. So I don't feel that is going to replace that. And I do see that a lot of people are looking at different ways. And I think if you are actually being open to it in that scorpionic energy, that Pluto energy, where you're going, okay, where have I not uncovered something that I can actually change things up here? what am I needing to look at right now that if I do change, this can actually be quite a positive thing for me? And I think, really leaning in and turning towards those zodiac signs that are air signs to bounce those ideas off. And I think, again, having a very friendship group is going to be your saving grace. And also really working quite hard this year at networking. And I think that is going to be quite supportive as well, because Pluto and Aquarius can link to groups. There can be power in numbers. There also can be resources. It's really looking at different things. And when I have done a lot of research back in history, connected to this time, we had some people really going from rags to riches. It was individuals that one in society could look at and say, hey, these people were absolutely nothing. And that's potentially how they felt about themselves. But they ended up becoming quite famous. And for how can I put it? It wasn't their intent in general to become famous. It was just because they had that drive. And I think when we have no choice but to continue to try, there's that vibration that is going to be coming through this year, where you get, it's almost like there's no way we cannot succeed. We have to succeed. And so there can be this real drive that comes in you to find a way to actually succeed at something that you're trying to achieve. Now, we do have the sky lit up at the moment, and it's quite Aquarian in nature. And especially when we have placements of Mars moving into a particular house, you're always going to have a hero and a villain, okay? So depending on where Aquarius falls for you, there's going to be a lot of intensity in that area. You get the Sun, Mercury, I'll name the energies of where they're at. We have, okay, so the 18th, we have the new moon in Capricorn. I'll talk about the Sabian symbol at a base level. On the 20th, we had the Sun move into Aquarius. We now also have Mercury in Aquarius. So your mind, your intellect, action, your routine. There could be networking. There could be a lot of communication. You could be very concerned about particular areas, but it's going to be deep. Okay, so what we need to understand is the energy of Pluto and what it does. Sometimes we may feel very uncomfortable with this. We might feel ostracized. I have a lot of Aquarius individuals that I coach, that I have, around me with friends. And the more I've studied astrology, the deeper I've understood the personality of Aquarius. People are very attracted to them. People really love them. People really find they're ahead of their time. And sometimes they have this grandiose idea and everyone thinks they're crazy. And then, 2 seconds later, it's the latest rave. So they can always be ahead of their game in that department. So, having an Aquarian on your tribe is going to be something really unique, and it's going to challenge you. But also for those individuals, it's going to be very unique for them as well, where they're going to be coming into this very deep energy and be feeling these things more profound than usual. And they're really going to go through a massive evolution at a very internal, external, personal level. So some people may find that with that change with them, it's happening ever so quick. And it's like, if there's an attachment, how is that going to directly impact me? But again, inside of groups in general, we can feel almost like we're the black sheep of that kind of group. And if we can lean into it and actually understand that each person right now is having their own personal experience, and can it be pack mentality? It can. Can there be protests? There can be. Can there be positive things with this? 100% there can be, but it depends on your level of consciousness and awareness. And that doesn't mean to say you're good or bad. All of these things are going to directly take us full circle. On the 17th, we also had Venus in Aquarius. So again, we might be looking at the goods and bads, the values, what we're valuing. We can see increases with prices, it could be gold, it could be silver. We could be looking at our money and thinking that AI is going to take it. But again, it's about looking at the Venusian energy and, the people we value, the groups we value, the pastimes we value. But let's just be aware of where Aquarius is. We also, on the 23rd, my date here in Western Australia is the 21st. On the 23rd, be aware, we are having Mars enter Aquarius. Now, because February hosts an eclipse in this department, I want you to pay close attention to these areas. Although we're still digesting and unpacking the Capricorn energy, which I do very much believe, how could I put this tactfully? There could be changes in governments, changes in the way they're run, changes for those individuals of how they deal with situations, especially in certain countries. The Aquarian energy can make the people feel like they're either loved or hated, okay? But that can be us in general as well. Now, the moon currently actually is an Aquarius. So pay attention to these emotions. Now, some of the things I mentioned to the members is with, sitting with the astrology, initially there was anxiety coming into it. There was a feeling of good grief. It's almost waiting penny little for the sky to fall down. And it doesn't mean to say that intuitively every single person is feeling that way. But it can be, especially at the beginning of the year, where we're looking at particular aspects in astrology and placements. Everyone in the intuitive world and astrology world is looking and watching to see. Some particular aspects have not happened since, I think, the 1400s. Don't quote me. So again, we went alive at that time. We don't know how, with the other dynamics at play, how that's going to play out. And there are always variables. So it is within this time that if we are observing, it can directly give us a bit of a signature about what is coming in the future. However, do bear in mind that the nodes are going to be shifting. So yes, you can find that some of this is divinely guided. And I go back to, I would say 2017, 2018, and probably even further back. The reason I wanted to reference the amusement I was finding and how Mother Nature plays things out to force upon a change. And so the fact that when you do look at Pluto and Aquarius, it is to do with groups, the wider collective, the individual, humans against AI, things like that. But it's us, it's the group, it's society, it's community, it's countries, it's where we live. So we can see a lot of changes with that happening. When you understand the Plutonian aspect or the Scorpion aspect, those individuals know very well, especially Capricorn, go ask Capricorn, is that be it we want change or not, when we are too close to that painting, we can't gain perspective. And when we are within it, we realize the good side and the bad side of both coins. And so when something happens to everyone collectively, we realize how interconnected we are. So it does amuse me in a way from that perspective of how Cosmos Universe is kind of orchestrating this, one could say, in a very divine manner to create that kind of change. So we could directly see how suddenly we're having revelations of how what happens to another, we could in general say, hey, this can't happen to us, and then it could happen to you. So there is this kind of comprehension and digestion we're moving through to understand that. We also don't realize that the Scorpio-Pluto axis, the depths of what we hold. Sometimes we underestimate our abilities. Sometimes we underestimate our resources. And what directly is a resource, especially with Venus and Aquarius, is it out here or is it in here? Is it something that a skill you did not know you had? The value you hold in your community, the value you hold in your family, like what is that value? Because it's a little bit like an onion. There's been too many metaphors to express how Pluto in Aquarius is, but it's going to make you go deep. It's going to get you into that trash can and you're going to be digging through and there will be a diamond in the rough, but you also could get rid of some things that you just didn't need anymore. You had outgrown. You did not realize you were maybe carrying belief systems. This can be not feeling part of a group. This could be feeling like if somebody praises you, it's value. And we all want value. We all want appreciation. but somehow it will always show you both sides of that coin to bring you back into your self-awareness to help you actually unpack that. And a lot of the members lately have had these huge revelations, especially with the North Node in Pisces and South Node in Virgo. Yet some of these understandings, some of these upgrades are going to come in further down the track where it's going to be a total different subject matter. Now, some of you might have been feeling, is it time to go? And what do I mean by that? I mean the reference point of, are you having this desire or this feeling that you need to start something, you need to do something, but you've been kind of like in the waiting room? And, I really wouldn't be surprised if you were directly having those feelings. I'll put the chat up there. I click so fast. Hi, sweet. So, the waiting room in a context, we can be really frightened, but we need to be really excited. These are going to be times when we do deepen these areas, where we actually have some healing and transformation and change in these areas, where we become very, very creative. And, a lot of people I've spoken to either are having dramas in the area of motivation, could be very psychological. And yes, just remember, we're dragging yesteryears behind us. So it does feel like a drag. We are also in that exhaustion from 2020. Thus, this month did feel a little bit like Groundhog Day because we had the axis with the two lunations between Cancer and Capricorn. And, when we have Jupiter retrograde, it's almost like things come to a stop, and it's not they completely stop. They don't. And I'm really watching this Jupiter movement at the moment. So currently in the energy of Gemini, moving back into Cancer, we're having time to retrieve and rethink before we launch. Okay, that's one way you could directly look at it. Especially if there are question marks. I was mentioning to the members that with Jupiter, especially when I was talking to my husband, it was like, okay, Jupiter comes along and goes, look, I've got these opportunities for you. What are you going to do about it? Now, these can be good things. These can be bad. So it could be anything down to an opportunity. It could be travel. It might be education. And again, I think even the education is going to completely transform. So pause, pause, and don't not look inside yourself for the skills you already have. Not to say don't educate, not saying that. The other thing it can do is if there has been a situation, again, this is not legal advice, it could be, hey, I need to deal with this contract, or I need to deal with this, official document of some description. It can be something like that. Well, it's retrograde at the moment. When does it go direct? Don't quote me, because all of it, I know what's happening. Exact dates because I have been multitasking. So Jupiter retrogrades for 48 days. Currently retrograde. It is going to be moving back. And I'm telling you, when it moves into that sign, that is going to be really interesting. 2026. Okay. So on the 11th, it will move direct in Cancer. However, the exact date of the direct, I believe, is next month. Don't quote me. Looking. Jupiter, Jupiter, Jupiter. It helps to be ready. Let's look at March. They bounce between. The software I'm using at the moment makes you backtrack. Okay, so it will remain there the 11th of March. I'll get the exact dates. We'll do another update later. But it is at the moment in that Gemini energy. It transitions, it moves back, and then we will have an exact date of it moving back into Cancer. So those things in the retrograde, you're going to be reflecting upon. It's like, okay, do I go ahead? Do I have family things going on? Do I have communication devices? What do I think? Too many ideas. How do I digest this? Best advice, especially if you are overstimulated this year, you're going to have to get into a routine practice of detaching, sitting, being, digesting. It's going to be pretty fast. We're in the year of the fire horse, which does mean it's going to feel quite fast. Let's not get skittish. Let's pause where we need to. Let's make decisions. And if we need to do a redirect, we can do that then. Sometimes we fail to launch because we fear an outcome. Yeah, sometimes you don't have time to think, you have to decide. So trusting your instincts in the moment is going to be necessary. And that's about building that relationship with your instincts and saying there's no right or wrong, okay? I have to make a decision. And so those decision makings can start feeling this pressure point, but really unpack it. And I would say by the time we do move through these eclipses, that's when I think we're going to be able to unpack a lot and say, hey, okay, I know where I'm going. Now, if you had decided last year, and that more than likely was around September or October, what direction you were doing, what subject matters they were, you can find that as we're proceeding into the following months, some things are going to start shifting around for you. Sometimes those things happen to you and you think, oh crap, it's happening to me. But other times it is directly for you. So I do really want you to trust the process with that, even if it doesn't look divinely guided. Do we have any questions? Now, Leo, we are going to have these areas in our life where it's going to be, I'm just going to have a drink, so I'll just chuck the banner up. We're going to have some moments where we think we're crazy. We're going to have some moments where we feel we're going in the wrong direction. We're going to have anger, okay? There is going to be some anger, and we can see things happening around the world. And the one thing I directly have been saying, especially when I read things on social media, is that to look at both sides of the story, is first, and to step back and observe it and look in. And I don't know about you, but a lot of you are going to become more courageous. A lot of you, and we can do that in a healthy way. It doesn't have to be in a negative way, but it can be courageous in a sense of actually articulating your opinion of a situation, but also not discounting another person's opinion. And it's not to go in and fight. That's not what I'm referencing here. And I'm not saying that may not be necessary in some instances. More the point is to see both sides of the coin. And this is what I think a big lesson is going to be. But I do see huge shifts. And I do see, especially when I have seen on social media comments made in relation to a different country, I can honestly say to you that, and I'll chuck me back on screen. I keep getting phone calls from husband. Now, I'm a European woman, okay? I'm half caste. And I remember a follower years ago saying, oh, you can't say that. And it took me a long time to come to accept that's who I was. In one breath, it would be on dad's side, if I was doing right by that culture, I was that culture. But if I was bad, I was the other culture, and it was this catch-22. Then the older you get, especially when you go into your Saturn returns, etc., you do become more accepting of that factor. And especially with what's happening in the collective, I can speak from experience, and I look white. I am not white. That many can be fearful. And it does take me back. And what do we do in life? We generally will look back in history and go, but this is what happened to this particular culture, or this is what happened to that particular culture. And it can raise fair vibration in us. Or we can move to that polar opposite, which I'll reference. And I do recall, especially because, I do have European in me, of when 9/11 happened, that directly spiritually affected me, not just for the reasons of observing it, but also understanding the signature of blame and how that happens. And so, leaning into this vibration of change happening in the world, I had to ask myself a very valuable question. It was like, how are you going to show up? Are you going to hide? Are you going to feel shame? Are you going to stand in it? I remember thinking of my name, which is the channel. It's the channel name. That's my first name. Is, how will that directly impact you? And not from a vanity purpose, but in general, same question back to 9/11 of how would that directly impact us. And we saw what happened in Australia. And again, that raised that vibration in me. Yet, like I said, with Mars, Mars is a hero or a villain. Okay. So there was a hero of that culture, there was a villain of that culture. And I think that was a great example of the choices we make, be it they cause losing face or losing self. It is in the vibration of a choice, and I think that is the accountability of the vibration of the choice. And so, the choice, really over the last few years for me, especially because I have Scorpio placements, it's like I really digest it, lobotomize it, look at it, is you've got to lead by example, and other people then will have courage to do such too, and that can be in a very positive way. It's about creating this inclusion, creating this understanding. And what is Aquarius? It's groups, but the thing is, we live in such a diverse world, is that when you say you can't be here, where do you go? Is there a multicultural land? Australia is very multicultural. Um, and again, when I do look at the great conjunction we had in 2020 and understanding that, especially from the reference points that we have from astrologers, is there is actually no going back. So even in the divine feminine polarity, a while ago, I did see a leader and a lot of leaders coming through that are going to be divine feminines. And people really looking back to that. And I remember Tesla mentioning there would be a rise of the divine feminine. Now, we can choose to be a positive vibration of that. It doesn't have to be the negative connotations. Otherwise, we're just moving into the toxic element of masculinity. And we all have masculine and feminine in us. It's about being the nurturer, the understander, the person that can see both sides. And that's what a parent energy does. It is with your friendship groups. And, how can you dance with that energy? It's actually mixing with people that aren't like-minded. And that's how we create that diversity and we create that understanding. What's the other thing I was going to say? So yes, it was definitely, the name changing, which was I was wanting to do, was not for the given reasons I referenced. A is because the channel is moving in a different direction. It's moving in a direction where it's going to be information content, it's going to be resources, it's going to be education. So the names, readings, that term probably doesn't hold true to the new narrative of what it's going to be. So that would be the reason I would change that particularly. My son said we should move to Australia. It's going to be everywhere. And I think it's about, and look, I would say there was a podcast, not a podcast, there was a video I was listening to the other day, and it was an interview, and they were talking with, I think it was, how do I explain it? Individuals getting status in a country and having to fill the forms out. And they said there was a massive increase from 2020. Let's just get that clear. 2020 for American female citizens wanting to come to Australia. Now, more so now in the last 2 years, they said. Now, what is that? Jupiter in Cancer can be women's rights. Jupiter in Cancer can be the laws connected to females. Jupiter in Cancer does have power, okay? So turn around and realize your power, but effectively do it the right way and realize Jupiter, when it gives you the opportunity and you work together. Now, the other thing is, I remember years ago talking about, the population and how many women to how many men. Now, it is not a competition. I am not talking in reference to that. But theoretically, if there are more females and they move towards being that healthy version, you get a whole lot of power there, and you're really underestimating it. And that's Pluto, Pluto and Aquarius. It's groups. There is a majority of females, and a lot of females, would we go back to ball and chain and at the sink? And it's not that I begrudge that and belittle that and think that's bad. Not at all. I like doing cleaning. I love cleaning. I love cooking. I love being a female. Sometimes I hate it. But I never wanted a career. I can tell you, especially with my zodiac sign, it was never my aspiration to have a career. But in true Scorpio nature, what you want and what you get is two different things. So that ended up being quite a dominant thing I had to focus on, especially as a single parent for a while there, and most of my years. My point is, Jupiter hasn't gone direct yet. So we are going to have women actually looking at, yes, it could be traveling to a different country. There is a window portion for that because Jupiter is going to move out of that sign. We also will have things to do with your own physical family, where you will live. At the moment, there can be some anxiety around it. It's like, where am I going to live? Is it going to be okay? Are my kids going to be okay? Oh my gosh, I've got all this shit going on with my mum or my dad. How do I deal with that? Now, as things move direct, you might have some more clarity. It could also be, how am I going to buy a house? I don't want you to worry about that. Because in the astrology, what I'm seeing is, I can say that there is going to be significant shifts. And what is happening to you is going to happen to billions. And in history, they have shown a change where things do become quite equal. So what you can't control, don't focus on. What you can control, attempt to focus on it. It's not to say don't start taking steps. It's not to say don't look at a plan, but it is to say relax into the subject matter that comes up in your transits. Because regardless, you could have a real dominant energy fixated in a particular area. Yeah, you could have your chart lit up in particular areas like a Christmas tree, which means they're going to be the dominant subjects you're going to have to focus on. So, and it's not through shared choice, it's through environmental situations. Does that make sense? So we have portals in our chart that can bring up certain months that gives you hotspots for romance. It doesn't mean to say you're not having romance, but you could have a very active career transit. You might have a very active routine transit, or it could be, it could be love, could be career, but you've got to know where that is in your life, and the dominant energies will come up. It's been extremely anxious and angry. Look, you're going to have a lot of people really pushing back at the moment, especially because Cancer Capricorn axis is America. Australia, these eclipses coming up. The first one, we're going to have the moon in Leo, we're going to have the moon in Aquarius. My feeling intuitively is, although, yes, the other transits can bring aspects up. I'm good, Dale. How are you? Long time no chat. The other thing is where the eclipse is going to be, especially when I look at the transits, my hotspot areas I'm looking at, which it could happen later, but there is a distinct possibility in my mind. It's Australia, it's Africa, it's New Zealand, not just Antarctica. And, when I have looked back, yes, it can be earthquakes, it can be volcanic activity, and that is a portal of 2 years, if not beyond. Does it have to be bad things? No, it does not. Yin to the yang, you're going to have changes. And what do we need to do with the up and coming North Node is to focus in that area. So what could it be? It could be innovation, technology. It could be, and, although they could be resources. Yes, countries can become hotspots because of their resources. So sometimes is it good to be rich? No. Sometimes it's good to have those resources. Not if someone wants to come and say, hey, guess what? I want to take it. But it again, we're going to have to understand we are resourceful. Don't not look outside the box. And hey, if something is coming up where you are looking at it, take steps now. It can be getting your paperwork in order. It might be, taking one step towards a goal, getting into a routine so that you're feeling, a lot of Scorpios lately, some are looking in at this and going, change is normal, okay? Going deep is normal. Been here before, bought the t-shirt, don't like it, but always get something out of it. Others can be looking in and be angry. Okay, where's the anger coming from? Looking at what you're doing that you don't want to do. Now, is there a different way to do it? Or are you so close to the painting that you just can't see it? I am going to be coming live at different times. It's just there has been. And look, honestly, a lot of you guys would have gone through the same as me. Last year was about endings. Last year was about getting rid of what didn't work, going back into what did work. And with Aquarius Leo axis is about being you, especially with Neptune in Aries. You know, it's who are you? What's your dream? You know, what is the truth about who you are, not the poker face. And so we're going to be like a baby giraffe walking around, and it is masculine energy. We can get angry sometimes that people don't understand us and it's just all about us. But what is Aquarius? It's kind of an oxymoron, because in one way, Saturn and Neptune conjoining and sitting there is like, well, guess what? You have a social responsibility. You're burdened with your responsibility. So we can feel isolated. We can feel, oh my gosh, you know, what if my pension goes? What will I do? I'm just being real. But if it happens to you, it happens to Joe Blog down the road too, which would mean a new world. The other way you could look at it is you could feel, again, what's Mars? It's the hero and it's the victim. You don't need, you know, in some ways we are going to be leaders. In some ways we're not. In some ways we need to hear the group. In other ways we may support the group. And, you know, it's together that changes. But there's going to be a seesaw effect between it. You know, 1 minute there can be a lot of ego and we can be, you know, blasphemizing and looking at somebody that's becoming very successful in the next 2 years and really slagging them off. The next minute you can go, wow, this person's really had to come up. That's amazing. They're shining bright like a diamond. They're really pushing their energy forward. Being careful not to idolize individuals like they're gods, okay? But, you know, realizing that human beings make mistakes, they can change their mind. The other thing is with the Leo axis, it's like, okay, the way you were going, you're not going anymore. What is it? It's sun. But we must get through those eclipses, because in Leo fashion, and many of you, especially Leo next, you can actually probably confirm this as a fact, is the closer you get to eclipses with that Leo energy, it's almost like the Hermit card in Tarot. And, you know, apart from your intuition, you don't really know where you're going, because you're looking for that light in the bedroom. And until that eclipse shifts, it can just cause anxiety, because you, as the sun, you're going, okay, then that changes because it's muffled, it's eclipsed out. It's like, well, was it going left? Was it going right? You know, you need some time to just be. And it's not natural, okay? It's not natural. You want to go. Are we going left? Are we going right? You need to wait, because critical information about that direction, critical circular information, individuals around you, and the depth, you know, some of your relationships, for instance, can go really deep if you let them, but you're going to have to let go and allow. And sometimes it could be pouring your heart out. Sometimes it could be getting to the root cause of something. You know, we talked about this in the members. Words hold weight. What you think I say versus what another person receives. You know, I was talking to my sister about the term strength. You know, and some people, if they hear the term strength, they're like, hell no, I don't want to have to fight to keep strong. But strength can mean you've already achieved that. So it depends on the ears of the receiver. You know, where did you create strength from? You went through shit, you know, and then you're on the other side and you're like, wow, I learned some valuable skills, and you know, I feel so pumped. I'm on the other side of that. So strength and words hold weight, but to the ears of the receiver. So you can't, you can keep that in mind, but it doesn't mean to say you can avoid disaster. Does that make sense? So sometimes it's about asking the individual, I've received it as this. Can you confirm, is that what your reference point was, or is that what you were meaning by that sentence? Because how you've unpacked something doesn't mean another person's unpacked it in the same way or sent it in the same way. So there could be a lot of cross wires and really unnecessary misunderstandings around those situations. I haven't had a clue where I'm going for years. Yeah, but you've got to understand that from 2020, we were wrapping up things. We had the introduction to Aries and Chiron. It's a very difficult position because it's very personal. So in particular areas within your individuality, we've had to have some revelations about some things that we've needed to, some wounds we've needed to dress. Some of those things can never be healed, but we've got something out of it. We're a teacher in that department now. And I think the really good thing is, if you look at life as, and that's not to say when you look on the news, well, it'd be lovely if they gave different angles. And I think I do tend to these days, here and there, I will check in with the news, but I will also look at, different platforms, like as in non-mainstream, if that makes sense. I want to get that varied view. Where am I going with this? So the not knowing where you're going. If you look at, when we were children, that's Aries, right? When we were children, you didn't go into it going, Mum, Dad, what's the routine? I just love routine. I got into so much trouble as a child, and I was very adventurous. I was inquisitive. I was, wanting to go and discover. Was I a naughty child? I wasn't a naughty child. I was an interested child. When I did live in Europe, this was, I think I was about, I went back when I was 14. I went back earlier. One thing I did discover is those children that do not have the physical toys you buy from the shops, boy, are they creative. So where's that creativity going? When you get everything else and it's done for you, you're going to lose your creativity. So when you have less, you are more creative. So it creates creativity. So the world is a playground, but you really have to get back into the playful energy of it. You got to look for your pockets. You've got to look for your creative spark, your joy, what brings joy, and being present. And what do adults do? We create this controlled environment that is very structured, and we're having a restructure at the moment where we are. I mean, the moon just shifted through Capricorn on the 20th. Let's get the exact date. 20th, I'm pretty sure. So moon is within the home environment, the structures within the family, the routines you have is at the critical degree. So some of those things, although you're building, it could be, well, are you building it on a solid foundation? Is it an old structure you're re-implementing? Is it something at the moment to do with sternness in your vibration that you're like, okay, I need to level up. I'm moving to this next level. It's deep though. Capricorn actually is fun. Capricorn can actually be a hero. We saw that with the Mike Tyson fight. The individual was actually Capricorn. Interesting placements in their charts. So Capricorn in your own personal life is your footings. It's your base chakra. It's how you can do something very quickly. What you feel you need to do. But the shadow sign of it is Cancer. So I think with these critical degree points we're having with these lunations, it's endings and new beginnings, endings and new beginnings. Okay. But we were doing this from, I would say, 2020. Now, what you will find is this year it is about new beginnings. Now, there are going to be some endings. We do need to wait for that lunation of the nodes in Pisces and Virgo to shift. There are going to be some endings. We are already with some ingresses going to have those new beginnings. So it doesn't have to be, oh my gosh, we need the nodes to move out. No, in fact, we are going to be having the energy of both simultaneously happening. So it's like Pink, the fun house, and the juggling act, and going, okay, let me get back to that playful nature. And sometimes when you feel everything's going wrong and you're trying to juggle those eggs and you're looking at life going, do I cry or do I laugh? Because it has been challenging. So you're not going to be the only one that is feeling that way. Does that make sense? It's looking at your mum and your dad and getting that they're having their own personal experience. And, what does Aquarius do to us? It makes us feel misunderstood, or that we're the last one out, or that, do people not understand? Or you can be you could feel that you're the glue. You could feel you have to fix everything, and then people turn into you and go, but did I ask you to do that? So it will bring up a lot for us, but there's both power in numbers, but there can be detriments in numbers if we're circled by situations that are quite toxic. It can grow us. I don't think, my grandmother said to me years ago, and what is Pluto? Pluto is grandmother. What have our ancestors taught us? What do we know now? It's not just about that. And really, I do see with Saturn in the energy of Aries being older and younger energies, what happened in the past versus what happened now. It could be the maturity or the structure or the routine. It also could be hierarchy and dominance and control, or it could be rules that come in to actually do that, to put pressure on us as an individual. Okay, well, you want your dream? Brittany, you want a hot buddy? It's like whatever that thing is. Pluto takes you deep. Pluto shows you the white ants in the building, and it's like you can, go, it'll be okay, and then the roof falls down. So it has to be addressed. Systems in, countries, systems in groups, systems in, it could be government, systems in, our circle and our opinion and the people we mix with. But also realizing that what happens in one country can happen in another. So I have seen, and I saw an astrology the other day, and they were like, I don't really want to move in and to, to bring the politics. And not necessarily do I feel the need or the desire to bring that up. And that was something I was really sitting with early in 2026, especially when it pertained to the direction, how I can be most resourceful to the collective, how I can bring maybe thought-provoking things to you so that you can have some reference point and go, hey, how do I look at this right now? So if you have been feeling tired, it's natural. We also do have, we're in solar maximum. We have solar flares coming in. We can have the energy with the eclipse. You have a lot happening. You're the fire horse. It's going to be going. But pause for a second. Have your spiritual toolkit, and it doesn't have to be religious. It's something that you do as a backup plan to keep you grounded. Have a principle. Okay, I'm triggered. I'm going to pause. I'm tired. I'm responding, and I'm crying. It's a little bit like if you're hungry and you go shopping, you're going to buy a lot. If you're emotional or you're tired and you've got your monthlies, you're going to be emotional. Yeah, if you have somebody tell you that, you're going to whoop ass. Okay? If you have that happening, you're going to whoop ass. Now, if you were more rested, you would probably be better in your vibration. Yeah, really keeping the hydration, the fluids. What does Neptune do? Neptune is fluid. It's in a fire sign. You're gonna need to look at things that inflame you and things that detox you. This is a better time to eat light. To look at what, do a food journal. What's working, what doesn't. Caring for your heart chakra, especially pertaining to the moon in Leo and moving over into Aquarius. It's Pluto, so what does Pluto do? Well, it's the gunk in the trunk, it's like I have to, what's working for me? And what happens when, you're stressed is your food process, okay? Breathing exercises. And we have fluid, breathing, checking, going beneath the surface, getting a checkup, going to a naturopath, whatever you feel divinely guided to do. Now, so the point that I was referencing, that the astrologer was like, oh, do I say anything? In a sense of political views. And I don't think this is a political view. It's an observation. I have observed, and this is my standpoint, and I don't know, do you feel the same? I never really said anything when I would read, okay? But again, when we do look at accountability or a viewpoint, I was seeing a lot of individuals posting throughout different social media platforms, and it was to do with almost like mockery of a different country and more referencing the people that lived there and what they should be doing versus what the other country's doing. And I think what we need to understand at a very base level is, and this was what I was talking about, Aquarius is like, I'm not just the group. Okay. So the thing is, you could be hearing that. You could be viewing people doing that, and you might be silenced. You might be sitting there and going, do I say anything? I actually, in polite ways, have been, and we're referencing the fact that, at the moment, what we, those maybe that are in self-awareness might say could be, well, a choice that a person who runs a country is their choice, even though it should be thought of that it's the people's choice. So at the moment, the way it stands, and this is in most countries, it could be that you vote somebody in the hope that the intent, the integrity, etc., is there, and they are going to do what they say. And look, things do change. Let's be honest. But then shifting the blame to the collective because of a choice, I don't think is correct. And that's not where I stand. I don't think that's okay. Because I don't think in general, everyone wants the world to turn to crap. Now, those that are more lower vibrational could be coming from a place of a wound, might be coming from a standpoint of about time the other person got their dues. That's because they're hurt. That's not who they are. That's because they're hurt. And that does not, what could I say? It doesn't excuse accountability, but that's one way to view it. So I directly, and I don't know, have you been finding it, if there have been people on social media really blasphemizing another country and, oh, we do it better than you. You know, at a vibration level, it didn't sit right with me. And to me, especially because I have a lot of fellow Americans, I'm in understanding of how you guys are, you know, and it's with love and respect that I have this, is that I have a lot of multicultural friends and I'm not going to stop doing that. And, you know, even my community, I stand by, it will be multicultural. It will be, I think it's beautiful to push ourselves to accept and understand other cultures. And so that's what I'm promoting, and that's who I am, and I'm not going to stop being that. And I think if I can give you the courage to do that, you know, wherever you are in the country, and each person are going through it, you know, in a very difficult way, I hope you have the courage to do that too. So for me, when I hear other, you know, maybe it just could be a person. One of the comments was, America, look at us. And, you know, I was born in New Zealand. So it was the police in New Zealand dancing at a concert and being nice. And they were referencing what was happening with people that were being removed by ICE. And I was like, that's just so not cool. Okay. So they were referencing that it was the people that was making that choice. And it really isn't. Okay. It's not. So for me, as a human being, my statement was, I think we need to understand when we are pointing the finger, not to point a finger at the citizens of the country. And that's whatever country it is. Anywhere in the world with anything that's happening. I'm from the beauty of what I have had, Pluto has been, for a lot of my years, I was around the elderly and I had the wealth of wisdom shared from them. And it does make me emotional thinking about it because, you know, I would be in the nursing homes talking to them and they had their war medals, or, you know, it was the women and it was, you know, they might have been children during the war. And, you know, the stories that they told me and the adversity they went through, but the mindsets, they were all very, very different. But one of the things, you know, it was the food and how they would eat. My grandmother, for instance, came from a very large family. She had 14 children, and during the war, I was explaining to my niece the other day is that food was very sacred, and that for her there was a chicken for 14 people, And what she had left, because they had to hide in caves, was she would basically have to eat the head of the chicken. And so when we look at our food to have that gratitude, when we look at another country of what they're going through, what affects another country affects us. But it's having that wisdom, Pluto, of what happened before. Doesn't have to be that it happens the same way, but it is where we have to realize that we do have power in how we show up. And, the other thing that I was thinking was some of the stories, and do I incredibly understand when I hear people talk about, there was one village that my grandfather took me to, and there was an ominous feeling in this village. And I would always ask the history. I wanted to know about the culture because it was the other side of, me. And my father grew up working with the Greeks and the Turks, and they had a war over there. The border was cut, for many years in Cyprus. But he had friends from so many different cultures, and that was a country that actually went through that. And it's hard because it's generational. And so it does mean that it's our kids that do need to have that changed opinion. And it's very difficult for that to be if what has been digested in that family has been negativity associated to another culture. So in a way, we can hold space and have empathy for those human beings that had those horrific things happen. And some of the stories that they told me of what happened in this one particular village was horrendous. That I had to step into myself and say to myself, as observing pictures of these people that passed, like, could I have forgiven that? Because we can't judge a person unless we've walked a mile in their shoes to understand the depths of their pain. Holocaust victims, for instance, we can't understand the depth of their pain unless we walked that. So these are testing times. These are times that we're having to face our shadow with that and say, how do I show up? The other thing I was thinking was back to the hippie days, and I've forgotten, what was it called? Anyone? Okay. What now? 1960s and 70s, peace, love, and freedom. I thought it was back further. The original hippie movement. It was with the festivals. You know what I'm talking about, don't you? See, I'm showing my age here. I was thinking back to those times anyway. I thought it was more World War II. Was it earlier? Anyone a history buff in here? I brought all of my anger from 2025 with me into 2026. Stop watching news. My personal life is all the bad news I can handle. Oh, girl, we need to talk. It was Flower Power, but it was, I believe there was a concert. There was a concert, and it was okay. Okay. What was the largest anti-protest in history? The largest protest took place in Europe. The one in Rome involved around 3 million people. It was listed in the Guinness World Book of Records. I believe there was another one, and it was further back. In Vietnam. It was in Vietnam. Okay, Vietnam. I'm pretty sure there's one in America. Luciana, you should know better than me. Come on, who's up on Woodstock? That's it. Okay, so my thought process was not like that. Okay, this is different. This is bigger. This is grandiose. Why do I think that? I think I've had a lot of astrologers talk about spiritual bypass. Okay, so I don't think it's going to be the same on this occasion. I think it's more a physical action. I think it's more the group and how it's directly impacting. So I don't see it as being, and I'm not condescending what was done and in the name of it, it's more the reference point of what I physically see psychically and intuitively through the astrology. I just don't see it being that way. I see it being like similar, a bit of that, but a bit of the French Revolution. Okay. Hi, Sweet. How are you? So do you get my concept? It's like we are going to have these things kind of crop up, and the thing we need to understand is it could be coming up at the moment. So it could be coming up around your friends, and you're like, oh heck, I just want to be alone, or everything's going to be the same, and it's going to be crap. No, it's not. There's going to be a shift. Yes, we can. And I'm just going to be real with you. North Node in Pisces, souls that had chose to exit stage can in the next 6 to 12 months. Okay. That's because of the 12th house. No destiny swapping. Do I feel that a lot of old souls are here at the moment? Yes. Do I feel there still will be reincarnation? Yes, I do. I just think there was some significant event where, in a sense of a reset, this is why energetically we can have some souls that are already here that are reincarnated, where and a lot of you, it's not your first rodeo, be it you remember it or not, but it's more the context of, how do I reference this? This support element. Okay. So it's more the support element and the reset. No destiny swapping. Oh, I do think we're going to be jumping timelines. That's another thing I'll say. I might come back a little bit later. I do have a few things I've got to do. If you do have any questions after this, any comments, I will come back and have the charts up and do the tutorials, etc. But I just wanted to give you guys a base level context of, you're not alone. Don't freak out. Try to hold space. Don't be ashamed. Working groups, not in a vigilante sort of, just that there's something in this shift at the moment where I would say you need to hold space. You need to have faith in yourself, because what does Pluto do? It hides your abilities. It's like, oh, did you know you had that resource? Have you ever noticed a bag and you get to the bottom of it? Oh, I didn't know I had that there. Yeah, that's Pluto. But there could be some junk in there too. So just get rid of what doesn't work. Get rid of it. Be resourceful. You're more resourceful than you know. Some values you have, some assets you have, you might not be saying. Creativity, look outside the box. You incarnated at this time for a reason. Yeah. When my brother got wounded in Vietnam and was flown back to. Yeah. Well, it's interesting because I do see that frequency there. I mean, I was hearing psychically the reference point maybe to do with the judgments and the fear. Look, people are going to be scared. But what we fear, there's no point in running from it. We need to turn. What do we do with shadow work? You turn away, it's going to follow you. Now, it'll be something will happen to them, or like the old saying, what goes around comes around. So even your neighbor will have some crap. You will have some crap. Somebody down the road is going to have some crap. Their opinion, trust me, in the next 20 years is going to deeply evolve. Are they going to have moments of feeling like the black sheep of the family? There could be some cocky people there going, yeah, this is what we wanted. And then bang, it's like, oh, crap. It's done. So swaps and changes and lefts and rights, get ready. It's coming. And the other thing is, especially with your resources, one revelation I was having earlier on in the piece, especially in the prepper community, is be aware that Pluto in Aquarius is, helping the group. It's not just you could be preparing for yourself, and then you got your mum, dad, brother, sister, uncles, aunties. It's like, be practical. Be practical with it. Be resourceful, be practical. But yeah, definitely with Pluto, I definitely see things changing. Okay. And not just all bad. Not just all bad, but definitely some different locations. I'll write down the predictions. I'll come back. But yeah, I was seeing the Woodstock. I was seeing I do see protests. I do see subjects towards Antarctica. Look, what's Aquarius? Space. It's look up, look down. Where aren't you looking? Trust me on that one. Exposure. Okay. Gossip at the moment, especially. Gossip can get around like no tomorrow. Dirty little secrets coming out. Things exposed. Enemies within, enemies without. We get even our closest, there's going to be changes the way we see things and what comes up. There is a difference in the astrology between countries' astrology, the human being, maybe a leader's astrology chart. It can take on both signatures. You then got the collective astrology, global, and then you've got the micro, which is yours. So they're little worlds within. Don't forget your world. Okay, you can so A, the physical environment. B, I think once you get the download of what these shifts are, things are going to start moving faster for you. You're going to have revelations that it's different to last year. Don't go into panic. Think of the shopping trolley. You're going to go to the shop and you're going to buy hundreds of items you don't need when you're hungry. Okay, don't go out hungry. Motto of the story. Any questions? You're not crazy. You could be frustrated. I'm assuring you, things are going to change. Not just all bad. They are going to change. And my thoughts are with you wherever you are. And, be proud of who you are. Don't be ashamed. If you're scared, move into groups. Move into groups that understand you and love you and care for you. Move into people that motivate and inspire you. I'm trying very hard to get everything ready so I can open the members. I'm restructuring some rooms and zones and looking at the pricing of how I can do things. And then hopefully after the eclipses, I'll open that up and we can have people come through. But, in a setting, I am going to start doing some webinars online, and that can be like private groups. So if you want to join any of those, subscribe to the website and you can basically download the app. We have both the, I've got the Sage in a Circle landing page, so you can subscribe to it and you can basically get an update of when the doors are open. You also can download, both will have apps. So for the website, you can download the website. There can also be some extra perks I'm going to actually provide to those of you that decide to sign up to the community. And, it is really going to be a community. It's a place where I want you guys to feel you can be real with each other. You can actually speak about things that we find more taboo, that we do have to take accountability for more so in social media. And I'm not shading that. It's just a factor. What's the other thing? And having the network, a lot of people are like, oh gosh, how do I start a business? Where do I start? How do I look at my chart? What's happening in the economics of astrology? So those subject matters are going to directly be talked about inside the community. But it doesn't mean to say I'm not going to be posting here. But you are from a inspirational support kind of nurturing side of things, you're going to get more in there. And that's because you can vibrationally be you, talk candidly, ask the questions that you feel maybe you don't want the public world to see for misunderstanding, and you can just cut straight to the chase. So, I've even considered, which I do have the Moderators Network at the moment. I've turned it into the Moderators Network. And then we have the whole of the community, which is going to be a chat room. The moderators network is there for those that end up being moderators, is to actually directly have meetings with them, any feedback. But yeah, if you do look at the video, you can see a bit of the intro. It's up in the community. There is a bit of an intro to the video, and that basically gives you a gist of what we're going to host inside it. Otherwise, you can go through to the page on the website, which at the moment it is hosted at Yildiz Readings 5D, and you can actually get those there. The other thing is, what I might be inclined to do is through the subscription give people discounts for actual personal bookings. So that's another way I might be able to lower some of the rates. I'm just looking at different things I can kind of shift around so that I can offer you guys the best deal, especially with testing times. Otherwise, take care, and I will see you later. And hopefully I can get back to looking like a human being, like that female on the screen, because it has been a while.